Hi folks, thanks very much for joining me for this week's still water tutorial. What you see in the vise is a little dabbler, and I had a little vote on Facebook and this was the one that won the day. So I'm going to show you how to tie it, and without further ado, let's get into it. In the vise then is a Hanak H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 8, it's on a medium wire and it's in black nickel. The thread I'm going to be using today is the Fish On, sorry you can't see the label, you probably still can't see the label, it's Fish On Nano Silk and it's in black. Now first thing I'm going to do, as I do with all the silks, the Vivas, the Fish On stuff, is just add a tiny little dab of super glue to the shank of the hook, and then I'm going to use the silk to spread it up the shank of the hook. Don't want a lot of super glue on, but I just want it to fix down my bed of silk. So I'm going to run that up just past the point, and then I can remove my rat's tail. Now I'm going to be using some bronze Mallard. This one's from the Irish Plucker. That always makes me smile, and I've already picked out a couple of feathers from the bag. So what I'm going to do is take about a thumbnail's worth for my tail, and I'm going to pull that out at a 45-degree angle from the stem, and what that does is just roughly lines up your tips. Then I can pull that off and put that bit to the side. I'll get another hackling out of that, and what I'm going to do with this, I'll try and do it on camera, is I want to fold it in half like so, and then I can come down and see what distance I've got for the tail. Now tail wise, I want it about the length of the shank of the hook. Hold that into position, make sure you get it held, not holded, that's not even a word, on top of the shank, like so, and then just check your tail sitting the way you want it. Then you can come down a little bit. Now, there's going to be quite a lot happening at the front, so I'm going to just remove the bulk of the waist there. And then I'll secure that down. So that's the tail in place. Next we're going to create the body of our fly, and I'm going to be using some of this stuff. It's Prism SLF Dub. It's from a shop called Country Life, which used to be based in Edinburgh, but I believe it's closed now. But any kind of glister sort of dub. Now, to make this body, often I'll just split my thread, but on this occasion, I'm going to create a dubbing loop. So I've run off approximately 12 inches of thread, silk, sorry, and I'm going to catch that in to make my loop all the way to the base of the fly. I've got my rotary action to very loose. I'll just tighten that up a little. So I've got my loop here. I'm going to bring in my dubbing twister and catch that on. Then I can leave that hanging while I find my clip that I've preloaded with some of the SLF dub. So again, I'll pick up on my clip, insert that into my dubbing loop. Don't come too close to the fly with this, because what ends up happening is you wrap up and you've got no room to work. So once you've got it into position, you can then spin it up. Now I know this is it's kind of off camera for you at the moment, but that's okay. You're not missing much. I'm just using my thumb and forefinger in my right hand to twist my dubbing twister. And then what I'm going to do next, once I've got it up to how I want it, I'm going to thin out the part that's nearest to you, because I want that nice and thin at that bit of the body. I'm not going to discard these little bits I'm pulling off, because I am Scottish, so these will go back in the packet to be used later. Plus I don't think you can get this stuff anymore, so got to be conservative with it. Now that I've got that in position, I'm going to just bring my tying thread up to the front of the fly. Make sure you leave a good 1/8 of an inch at the front here, so an 1/8 of an inch back for the eye, because you're going to need that space. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use the rotary function on the vise. I'll just loosen up the knob so that I can put my body onto the fly. Now if you haven't got this function, i.e. you haven't got a rotary vise, then all you have to do is the old-fashioned way of turning it hand over hand, and you'll get the job done. Don't be tempted to come past where your tying thread is, and I can see mine's is just popped up there, but that bulk's most welcome at the front, but not too much. So I've got that into where I want it pretty much, so I'm going to lock the rotary function down again, and I'm going to trap that in with my tying thread. Couple of turns in front just to make sure your thread doesn't back off. Then you can come in with your scissors and remove the excess. So far so good. Next I'm going to use my dubbing brush just to tease out some of them fibres, and I don't know how well you can see on the camera, but there's lots of glister and glint coming through, and when I start cloaking this fly, that really shows through. Looks really good. Okay, next then we're going to put in a hackle, and I'm going to be using some of the trout line selected small guinea fowl, and this is dyed yellow. Now Melvin Wood, who I've got a lot of respect for in the world of fly tying, did suggest that orange or red would be better, but I just don't have that available to me at the moment. I have ordered some actually now that it's been suggested, but it's not arrived as yet. So I've already got the feather, and I've stripped down all the waste off it, so I've just got the feather. And what I want to do is catch in the tip with my hackle pliers, and I'm just going to tease back the feather, and then once I've got that little bit to work with, I can come in and just tie that on. I can remove my waste. I'll just make sure that's firmly down into position, and I have got a little handle here that I've created, but I always like to just get my hackle pliers onto it. I think it gives you a bit more control, but you know, the more expert tiers amongst you will probably be able to just use the handle. I am just bringing it down. I'll probably only get 2 turns with this, but that's all I need really. It's just to give that little hint of colour underneath the cloak. So I'm just turning my thread now over to lock that into position, and there's a stray fibre just getting in my way there, so I'm just going to come over the top of that and get a couple of turns in front, and then with my scissors I can come in and remove the excess of my hackle. So it's looking a bit messy at the moment, but don't worry, we're going to tidy all that up. It'll look pristine soon enough. And I'm just going to use my thumb and forefinger just to tease out that guinea fowl. I want that to go all the way around the fly, and then I'll just tidy up this front area a little bit. So that's looking not too bad. Just going to loosen up my vise once more, because I want to invert it this time. And once I've got it into position, I'm going to add the throat hackle. And again, I've got a little piece that I was using earlier that I'm going to use for the throat hackle, and again I'm going to take approximately just under a thumbnail size, and I've brought that out from the stem just to marry up the feathers. And once again I want to fold it in half. I don't know how well you can see me doing that there. But then I can dress that up, and what I'll try and do is bring it straight up the middle, bring it over the eye of the hook, and I know that's roughly at the eye, so I can catch that in. Bring them feathers back out the way, get a couple of wraps in front, and then you can remove your waist. Just caught that silk a bit off, just twist that up, should be fine. And then I can invert my vice back around to how it should sit. Now there's a lot going on at the front of the fly, so we've got the hackle, we've got the throat hackle, and we're going to be putting in our overcloak in a minute, and that's why it's important to use either a nano silk or very, very thin thread. But the trouble with using very, very thin thread is you've not got the strength to clamp down on these materials, so that the nano silk really lends itself to this pattern. So again, I've got some bronze mallard. I'm going to take a really generous thumbnail because the cloak is I like mine quite heavily cloaked. Some people prefer it sparse, but again I've pulled it out at a 45-degree angle here, and I'm going to pull it off. You know, fly tying is very subjective. It's all about what you want to achieve. Don't be worrying about what the books say or what I say, or just you do what you think's right, and you'll not go far wrong. I don't think the fish care that much, to be perfectly honest. So I've folded that in half, and what I'm going to do is again, once more, come across the eye, and I want it just past the butt of the body, and then I can come in and catch in my cloak. Carefully come, excuse my fingers, all I'm doing is coming in and trimming off the front of the cloak, and I'm just going to open up my vise so I can see what you're seeing. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And now it's at this point that the flies changed slightly. So the hot orange head one that I showed on Facebook, what I would do next is cast off the black nano silk, and I would simply bring in Glow Bright number 5 to finish the head, and it's that simple. Other than that, it was exactly the same fly. But people voted for the jungle cock cheeks, so I've got a jungle cock cape here, and I've selected quite a large feather actually from a little bit further up the cape, and I've already put a little slit down the middle of the eye because I'm going to split the eyes. So where the split is, I can come in with my thumb and forefinger in my left hand and just encourage that to open up. Then I'll just get a couple of turns. It's not sitting right on my side, so I'm going to come back. That's better. Let's have a look at yours, and yeah, just make sure it's sitting right. There's no point in lashing it down and finishing it off, especially after all the effort you've already put in to be making a mess of it at this juncture. So just make sure you're happy with where it's sitting. So I'm fairly content at that. I'm going to come in hard now. Once you've clamped down with the nano silk, you get away with just pulling materials like that. Then what I'm going to do next is start to tidy up at the front here and build a neat head. I don't think there's anything more satisfying than a nice neat head on a fly, especially a fly like a dabbler. It's not so important with other patterns, but with a dabbler, I think a neat head really helps the fly. So I'm going to come in with my whip finish tool now, and few turns. Remove the thread, and now you can use super glue, varnish, whatever suits you. I like to use the resin, and I'm using Solaris Bone Dry, and I just want to get that on the head to finish it off. Makes it nice and shiny. Now you can give it a couple of coats. I'm only going to do one for the video, but I'll probably come back in a little bit and give this another coat. Now once you've got this dry, and the reason the fly looks slightly different in the photographs, and I'll show you that in a second. So when you see it in the photograph, you see this, and the reason for that is what I do once I've finished my flies, I always run them under the tap, and what that does is it just slicks back all your materials, and you end up with obviously something that looks like that. Now what's the point? Well, I like to see them wet, and the other reason is when I'm putting them in the box, that's less bulk, so I can put it into a slot than the fly as it opens out. But there we go, that's the Dabbler. That's the one that the Facebook people voted for, so that's what I've showed you today. I hope it was of some use. Thanks very much for watching. There were some interesting techniques there for you to try. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button, and I'll see you all next time.